Well, first off, to be upfront, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a historian, I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm just Joe Citizen who happened to get elected to a public office, and somebody has to stand up and say enough is enough. Something has to be done with these rogue, out of control federal judges. Judge Black isn't anything new. This has been going on for decades. It's just the first time this has happened while I've been in the General Assembly, and he's close to home, being in Cincinnati. So, we, the General Assembly, have no power over federal judges. The only thing we can do is issue sternly written letters. We call those, resolutions. So, I submitted a resolution to the General Assembly for approval. Don't know if that's going to go anywhere. But what it's asking for is asking the U.S. Congress to initiate the impeachment proceedings. Only Congress can impeach a federal judge. Well, over the next couple of years, I expect it'll go to the Supreme Court, and they're going to make a decision one way or another. And when they make decisions, it's the law of the land. It's just the way we've been operating for the last couple of centuries. And I don't want to try to predict what the Supreme Court is going to do. It's hard telling. DOMA was the most recent one that, I guess the federal government decided they're going to just move forward on the issue of homosexual marriage. And so now they've gotten to the point where they're attempting to overrule the states. And that is exactly what Judge Black has done. It's personal in the sense that, God ordained marriage is one man and one woman, and presumably for life. I mean, that was the plan anyway. And, for us to get creative with different definitions of marriage, that becomes a problem. And how far does this go? I mean, if you look at the arguments in favor of same-sex marriage, you have to ask yourself the question, why couldn't I apply the same argument to, say, polygamy? Or why couldn't I apply the same argument to sibling marriages? Or, or even, parent-adult child marriages. Then you could even, cross the line, well, can we even include animals? Maybe that's going too far, but 20 years ago we thought homosexual marriage was going too far too. I believe the Constitution should be the law of the land. And the issue of, religion, the Constitution, the original intent of all that was to keep the government out of the church. It wasn't to keep the church out of the government. If you look at the state constitutions, back to, the 1600s and ongoing, the preambles, I think, of every one of them starts with, an allegiance to God. And some states even had a state-sponsored church. And the Constitution, the First Amendment says, Congress shall not. It didn't say anything about the states shall not. The states were free to have a state-sponsored church if they wanted to.
Do you know any gay people? Do you have any gay staff members, gay friends, family members? Like, does this conversation ever come up in your personal life?
No, not that I know of. Well, I have an issue with these evolving standards, because if the Constitution can change at the whim of the judiciary, then we don't have a Constitution. It just could change from day to day based on the whims of this oligarchy known as the federal judges. Yeah, and in recent history, it was only 10 years ago, there was a constitutional amendment to keep marriage, to ensure marriage stays one man and one woman. This was decided by the people and in recent times. If the people want to change that, they're free to do so, and that's who's responsible for changing it, not federal judges. And that's my beef with Judge Black. Trust the people to eventually get it right. It's up to the elected officials, or the people through their elected officials, to be setting the policy for the state or for the country, not federal judges. It's not their job.